All right, Zombicide enthusiasts, Black Plague enthusiasts, we've got an incoming question here regarding scalability and abominations. Now, one of the great things about Black Plague, beating on zombies never gets old. And I love the setting of sword and sorcery and spells and the ability to kind of power up on there. You also get that on a side note. Just to lay that kind of foundation. You get that on a side note for Massive Darkness, too. But the difference is, I find Massive Darkness has clusters of enemies, which can be challenging and potent, and there's treasure. There's a lot of great stuff. I love Massive Darkness. But Zombicide literally makes you sweat. You start out at the beginning of the game, and you're like, at least when we play, I line up all the miniatures based on the types over to the side, like a sideboard where we're playing. So this way they're easy to reach. And new players to Zombicide be like, Fritz, why are you laying out all those miniatures? We're not going to use them all. It's like, yeah, we're going to use them all. About 25 minutes into this game, it's going to get real. It's going to get intense. There's no baby cakes here. And zombies spawn. And in the beginning, you're feeling pretty heroic because there's a few wandering around and they're on the far points of the table and you're laughing and having a great time. And then next thing you know, like everything is choked up with massive amount of zombies. So it's really fun to have that pressure and deal with them with swords and sorcery and magic items. It feels like D&D hack and slash on there. The great part about that is the scalability. And this is both a blessing and a curse with regard to the missions. For the most part, and I'm not giving away any spoilers, direct tactics, especially with the expanded missions, they're pretty well balanced on there. If you play tactically smart and you get some average draws on there, even if an abomination comes out early, there's still tactics that are open. They're pretty good. But you also have the ability to add in the Deadeye Walkers, Wolfsburg, scale up the abominations on there. That changes the intensity. It's great because it can make it more intense, make a more exciting game, but there's no real definitive footwork. You can add in the crows, the wolves. There's no NPC zombies. There's no definitive framework on how to do that. So you have to be, if you're looking for a, quote, fair, competitive game, you got to be careful. If you're like, look, we're just here to roll some dice, have some fun, maybe we win, maybe it's a heroic last stand, then you kind of add things in. So abominations, because they're the focal point on the game. And I find that generally they're going to come out in 1 to 3 time periods. And of course, there's a little bit of flexibility here. That adding in multiple or swapping abominations is going to change that time period. At the beginning of the game, you're at the lowest power level. You want to explore, right? We're trying to get some loot. We're trying to see what we can uncover on there. So the beginning of the game is about kind of branching out, slowly moving, staying together as a group, hitting up rooms, exploring, drawing exploration cards. If you hit an abomination early on, before you have the resources, the weapons, spells, item, resources to deal with it, or the innate character abilities to keep moving, avoid it, now the strategy has to shift. Now you literally have to be running to the mission objectives, and you have to kind of gamble more. Things become more about lightning fast movement as opposed to going slow and steady on there. If you draw in the middle of the game, can't fight the abomination in the beginning. If you draw in the middle of the game, you've got some exploration. You've got a couple of different pathways that you've opened up. Maybe you're going through one of the vaults and stuff. You kind of have a decision if you're halfway through the mission. You can try to fight the abomination if you have the appropriate gear. You can try to engage the abomination, or you can run on there. And if you run, you might get swamped with a lot of the other zombies because now they're spawning from multiple points. Now there might be possible double activations on there. It could go either way. And given the diversity of the deck of how it spawns, if you truly mix the cards up, for the most part, even though it's random, the abominations tend to want to deploy mid-game-ish. Maybe at the beginning of the mid-game point, maybe at the end. Big difference, but it's still that midpoint. When they deploy at the end, that's when it's the most satisfying, but perhaps the easiest. So you're at the end of the mission. Zombies are everywhere, but you're kind of godlike. You got a lot of powers. You've got gear to deal with it. The abomination spawns and it's running at you, and it's kind of like a fight the boss monster, end this game, icing on the cake. We're going to win, and we're going to take down, the necromancer, big boss on there. It makes that ending really fun. The key here is it's a dice game. You're rolling those dice. You could the mission victory point is right there. And you just got to move into it and win. Do you really need to engage? Do you really need the heroics on there? Crazy things can happen. So a lot of options. So we have the Kickstarter bosses, and we have the boss pack with the blob dude, the troll, and the minotaur. Those change up the base dynamics of kind of the super zombie in there, in that range is different, breaking through walls is different, number of attacks and charging is different. They are more difficult and challenging off the base kind of Zombicide main boss in there. The Necromancer created one. So the escalation that I would recommend would be play with the regular boss, replace that boss with one of the abomination packs on there. Just one abomination. That's right there is going to up the difficulty of the game tremendously, because now it's not only like a super tank you have to deal with, but it's a super tank with an innate ability on there. But if you're a zombie master and you're amazing at it, then I would cycle back in and deploy one special abomination and the base game abomination. And for Wolfsburg, the alpha wolf, he's kind of in the middle. He's somewhat harder than the base super zombie, but he's not quite the abomination pack. But you could easily swap the two there. Then if you're absolutely totally insane, then mix in two of the special abominations. I played a number of games where we've gone in with all three abominations on there, and this is I'm a very good Zombicide Black Plague player when I can keep my personal quest for glory down, when I can just be like, we're doing the mission and I'm not here for heroics. Usually I go off on a side tangent and try to get the glory and the heroics and level up and look amazing on the table. But if I play smart, I'm like Suedo from Grappler Baki. If I can just stay calm, if I can just stay focused, that's vastly different on there. So if I can play that way, and even when I bring in some of my friends that they're expert players on there, throwing in all three abominations, it's too much. Too swingy. You're going to draw one absolutely early on in the game. And now you're forced to run and not item farm or loot farm. And then if you draw another one, or you draw one in mid-game and you're still running from the other one, it's not even a heroic last stand. It's kind of like we're just going to get thumped on there. I mean, you could try it. That's the great part about it, where you mix in these cards, you figure out the type of adventure you want to play, and it pushes it in a really great direction. The last piece that I would recommend, and this could be frustrating because for some people they want to control the experience, but I believe in embracing the random. With the abominations from that pack, what we'll do is we'll take out the three cards from them, we'll shuffle them up before we put them in the spawn deck, and then we'll draw one hidden, shuffle that into the spawn deck. So we don't know exactly what abomination we're going to face on there. That adds a little bit of the surprise factor, but doesn't quite push it crazy out there